Yo, this is Chuck, and welcome to the How to Defeat Dudes video blog. So this video blog goes out to Bail We Can, who asked me an incredibly relevant question to pretty much anybody who's either in martial arts now or who is interested in getting into it. And that question is, how do you get over a fear of fighting? Absolutely excellent question, and I'm glad you asked. So anyway, let's take a look. Number one, and this by the way pertains to not just a fear of fighting, but to pretty much any kind of fear that you may face in life. And that is, remember that fear is a choice. Now, believe me, I know that turning off your fear is a lot easier said than done, and I'm not trying in any way, shape, or form to say that if you're afraid of something, then you're a coward or anything like that. It's not like that. But the point that I'm making is that whatever it is that you're afraid of, whether that be a fear of fighting or anything else, that thing doesn't actually exist right now. And it may never. So as such, there's no real point in spending your time worrying about something that isn't there. Particularly when it comes to getting into a fight, because if you're studying a martial art right now, you're getting prepared for it. Or chances are, you already are prepared for it. So when it comes or when it happens, you're going to do a lot better than you think you will. You'll be fine. So my advice on that front is don't worry about what could happen and just worry about right now. If you haven't heard of it before, a great book on that topic is The Power of Now. The whole book is about learning how to live in the moment like this. And this actually leads us into our second point. Point number two! And that is, especially if you've already been training in martial arts, remember that you're just going to figure it out. Now, in making this video, as it stands right now, I have no kids. However, everything that I've ever heard about it from other parents leads me to believe that getting into fights is a lot like that. Meaning that when the situation comes to you, you're probably not going to be perfectly prepared for it, and you're just going to have to figure it out. And at the time, you're not going to be scared because you're going to be too busy just handling the situation. For myself, one of the biggest fears that I've ever had has been getting a shoulder or a knee injury. In 2013, tore the rotator cuff of my left shoulder, and then a few months later, blew out my left knee. And I can tell you guys with an honest and open heart that it really sucked. But at the same time, it wasn't the end of the world either. It means I had to spend a long time hobbling around, it means that I had to go to rehab, and it means that I had to spend a couple months figuring out other ways to make an income. But here I am now, a year later, my shoulder's 100% healed, and my knee's not quite there, but getting there. And as a function of the strength and confidence that I got from making this recovery, I'm starting to do even cooler stunts than I was doing before I got hurt. Like this fall. Couldn't do that before the knee injury. So anyways, my point is, when that time comes, you're not going to have time to be scared. You're going to be in the zone and you're going to handle it because you have to. And it's as simple as that, really. Point three! Remember that you're stronger than you think you are. One of the funny things about doing martial arts training is that you end up getting really strong without necessarily knowing it. Most people who train, and in particular most people who train for self-defense, oftentimes get this concept that other people are hitting harder than they are, when in actuality they're hitting pretty doggone hard themselves. This is one of the things that actually makes martial arts training a little bit dangerous, because people will still think that they're not that strong when they are really strong, and then they'll hit somebody full force and they'll really hurt them. And for the person hitting, they didn't think they were hitting that hard, but they'd never actually used this stuff on anybody before. That happened to one of my students just last month. He's a teenage kid, he got into a situation with an adult, and then he used a technique, and he actually ended up really hurting the guy. And thankfully, at the end of the day, the guy ended up making a 100% recovery and everything was okay. So if you're training in martial arts right now, chances are you can hit way harder than you think you can. The other thing to keep in mind too, is that believe it or not, pound for pound, human bones are stronger than concrete. And that people have been stabbed like 20 times or more and have still survived. Not too long ago, I read about a woman in India who was attacked by a leopard and she killed it. Of course, she was in bad shape and everything and she had to go to the hospital afterwards. But she killed a leopard with no martial arts or any kind of training at all. All she had was the farm tools that she had on her. So my point is that you're stronger than you think you are. So as long as you're committed to the fight, and as long as you're committed to your survival, then you will get through it. And chances are you'll do a lot better than you think that you will. Point number four. Remember that the other guy isn't invincible. Now me personally, I love MMA. I think UFC's cool. But one of the things that I don't like about the trend that I'm seeing is that people are getting this idea that the average person that they're going to go up against in a fight is a UFC fighter or something like that. So that in order to fight this person that they have to know everything that there is to know about fighting and about every kind of fighting range and all this other stuff. And that's just not true. Of course, the more you know, the better. And the more you study, the better prepared you're going to be for whatever happens to come along. But keep in mind that the average person that you're going to get into a fight with probably isn't any bigger or stronger than you are. Chances are they're just a regular dude who just loses his temper. And they're not necessarily martial arts trained, or they're not experts in any kind of fighting. Which means that if you're trained, you're already better off than they are. The last two dudes that I knew that got into street fights that I talked to, weren't some super well-trained martial artists. They were just normal guys with a quick temper. Most fights don't look like this. Most fights actually look more like this.
Where are you going? I feel like you're scared.
Meaning that as soon as somebody gets hit, they've never experienced a punch before, so they just fall down. And now let's take a look at the last and what I consider to be the most important thing you should do if you're afraid of fighting. Study a ring sport. The fact of the matter is, ain't nothing on earth gonna help you get over your fear of fighting like getting punched in the face and kicked in the stomach. And the great thing about doing that is when you do it in the context of a ring sport, you're doing it in a safe environment with friends and where you've got lots of protective gear so you're not gonna get hurt. Now the reason that I say ring sport in particular and not combat system and or some traditional martial arts is because you need to find a system that has active sparring, where there are people who are actively and aggressively trying to attack you. That is the only way to seriously simulate the timing, the speed, and the adrenaline of an actual fight. Now I'm not trying in any way, shape, or form to hate on combat systems or some traditional martial arts, because I study all of them, I love all of them. And I think all of them have a lot of really, really good stuff in there that you can use and apply. Ring sports are not perfect either. But if you want to get over a fear of fighting, you gotta get hit. I still remember the first time I got kicked really hard in the face and the first time I got punched really hard in the face. And you know what? Neither time knocked me out, knocked my teeth out, or even took me off my feet. It just hurt. It's kind of like going to the dentist, meaning that it's less than pleasant, but you know, whatever, it is what it is. So anyway, to sum up these 5 points once again. 1. Remember that fear is a choice. You shouldn't be afraid of something that does not exist and that may not ever actually exist. 2. Remember that when it comes, you're just going to figure it out, so you're not going to have time to be afraid. Point 3. Remember that you're stronger than you think you are. Your bones are tougher than you think they are. Your survival instinct is probably stronger than you think it is. And chances are you can hit way harder than you know. Point 4. Remember that the other guy isn't superhuman either. He's probably just like you are. And last but absolutely most certainly not least, point 5. Study a ring sport. So guys, that's it. These are the 5 best ways that I know to get over a fear of fighting. I hope that you find this video helpful. This is Chuck. See you next time. Yo!